interesting time.
Yeah. Testing.
Yep.
Testing Zoom. Can you hear us? Oh no. Hi, nice to meet you, Rachel. Hi, Rachel. And the slides already up, I need to find it. They're all there. So are they going to just... No, it's just another slide. And it is located... It's already open. Sorry, they're already on there. Okay, so I just need to get them open.
To prepare the data, which was in the spreadsheet, and prepare that and ensure it was correct so it can be used for analysis within the software. I was surprised just how time-consuming and how much thought had to go into the cleaning data. I guess.
Thank you everyone. Welcome to the Monash Education Academy Learning Lunchbox. We've got another 3 presentations today to share new innovations and practice that you may be able to adapt and adopt. But primarily the Academy is really to bring good educators together, whether you're education focused or it doesn't matter, whether you're a professional staff member. If you have a student in front of you at any stage and you are doing some kind of education, you're part of the Academy. So there's a range of activities. We have networking, mentoring, a number of travel grants and small grants, and then moving into the larger grants that we offer throughout the year. So this is really the beginning. This is the Learning Lunchbox where you get 15 minutes to share your ideas with your colleagues, get some feedback, make connections and share what's happening. So today I'd like to welcome you to, I'm not sure how many we're going to be, but lots of Learning Lunchboxes. And today I'd like to introduce Megan Adams and Liang Li, transforming teaching and learning practices, students' choice and opinion in unit development, content delivery and assessment. So there sounds like we're giving the students some agency there. So come over and start your presentation, and welcome to our Zoom people as well.
So I'm Megan Adams, and you okay?
Ignore me.
Okay. All right. So we've managed to secure a small grant this time last year, and we actually have been working very hard for the whole of the year collecting data and interviewing students and working with students to develop a unit. And we're going to run through that with you today. And so the first, the rationale really came from a seed course that I did in 2015, and that was a social media course where I was introduced to William and Bateman's 2013 it's actually a book chapter on social media as a mediator to support students' learning. And in there was a framework by Stuckley and Arkle, which I'll go into in a minute. So we combined that with the innovative practice directed by student-centred learning, as outlined in the Better Teaching, Better Learning agenda. And we came up with an innovative practice. So this is the framework here. You can see it's informal learning to formal learning, how informal learning is bottom-up norms versus formal learning, top-down rules. And at the top, it's institutionally driven, teacher-centric, and down the bottom, it's member-driven and student-centred. I'm not sure about the line of increasing agency. I think there may be a typo in that somewhere because you can see the arrows go in both directions. But anyway, maybe some food for thought later on. But this is what we did. We really proposed the change to current practice. We wanted to really challenge traditional practice of unit development where chief examiners do everything. They decide on unit content, they make assumptions about student learning and knowledge, and they also basically teaching is instructional. And we changed it to one where learning and teaching was interactive and incorporated student choice and opinion. The way we did that was the semester prior to the unit delivery, we actually, through lectures, contacted the students who were enrolled in EDF 4551 and invited them to participate in a focus forum and interviews and complete a survey. So that was basically the innovation, I guess. It was contacting students before the unit started so that we knew a little bit about the students who were coming into the course, and we could find out their interests. Obviously, we had to work within the constraints of the handbook and the guidelines and the policies of the university, but we really wanted to learn about the students' thoughts and opinions in regard to unit content delivery and assessment, and we tried to incorporate social media into that as well.
And also, this is our basic research questions, and there are 2 questions we want to address through this project. Are there better opportunities to enhance learning and teaching by using social media with students in the process of unit development, delivery, and assessment, just as Megan has explained how the whole research process. So we try to do new ways of getting students' voices and the choices before the unit really start, even before the unit guide has been developed by the lecturers. And another research question is, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of incorporating students' choice and opening into unit development and delivery and assessment? We try to use these new ways of doing, incorporate with students' voices and into the unit development. We need to have the answer whether it is really good and innovative and suitable for students' learning. So that's the reason, and then we have this research question.
We're just going to concentrate on the first one because there were so many advantages and disadvantages of each model that we decided it was just too much to present in 15 minutes. So, yeah, just the first question.
Yeah, basically on first question. And also we have basically linking to one unit development is EDF 4551. It's about special education in Faculty of Education. And this is a 4th year students unit. And then we have 13 students enrolled in this unit. However, due to the limited time recruiting the participants, we only have 4 students fully participant into this unit, into this project, and also we have actual few students joined the pre-survey and the post-survey, but they didn't have time to come to the focus group discussion and also interviews. So through these 4 students fully participants during the data collection, including pre and post-survey, and the focus pre-survey is means that the first survey before their semester starts, semester 2, this unit starts. And the post-survey is means after all the data collection, like a focus group and the social media, Facebook discussion, and also semi-structured interviews, we send out another post-survey, and then they give us their thinking and thought about this project, and also focus group discussion prior unit delivery, because we emphasize on that is we know that unit guide, especially for Faculty of Education, is their really strict policy. We have to submit a unit guide very early, for a few weeks earlier than the unit really starts. So that's the reason we have to recruit them before the unit studies, and also we work with them through the 2 hours focus group discussions about what they really want, what do they really expect through this unit, and get their voices and what do they concern, because they are fourth-year students. They have been in university already 4 years, fully 3 years, and 3.5 years by that time. They're going to graduate, the next year. So this is the focus.
And also the unit that we took was collaborative principles, partnerships and procedures. So it really lent itself to collaboration right from the start.
Yes, this is linking to the unit content as well. And then through the Facebook page, it's doing the course studies already. And then we set up a social media using the Facebook, as they all think about Facebook works really well. And then through that, and we get their feedback about what do they think, what challenges through this unit development. And then next part is semi-structures at the end of their unit finished. And I went there because I'm not teaching this unit. I'm not working at Brevard campus at the time. And so it's a semi-structured interviews. I was there with them and with 4 students one by one individually, and get their experience and thinking about this, the whole process unit of development. And then another part is we use the situ data as well after unit finish. Okay, so come back to the analysis through this, and we use drawn upon cultural historical analysis from Mariana Heidegger's model, and including 3 levels of interpretation: common sense, situated, and also thematic interpretation. And during this whole process, we used 2 theoretical concepts to analyze our data. And the first one is relational agency. We feel it's coming from Anne Edwards and Darcy. And this is really important. It's showing that how we work with students, teachers, especially in faculty of education, and to use their relational agency as a good resources, pedagogical resources to as motives for the lecturer to collaboratively working with student teachers in the course development. But the problem is how we achieve, how we get their voices, how we get students' choices in our teaching. That is part we are using innovative approach to address as well. And another part we're using drawing upon cultural historical theory Vygotsky has developed. And especially these 2 concepts, everyday concepts and the scientific concepts, to look at these dialectical relations between everyday concepts and the scientific concepts. During the whole process is, as a lecturer, as Megan already introduced, during the teaching is quite structured and quite instructional as well, focus on specialized scientific concepts. What you want, expect students to achieve the learning outcomes through each unit. And however, during this teaching process, we shouldn't forget every student, they have their own everyday concepts, their previous experience at the university, their previous, concrete, knowledge through their everyday practices, especially for student teacher in faculty of education. They have joined a lot of professional experience during each semester. They do have a lot of questions, practices they can bring to the classroom, bring to the unit development as well. So that's the reason why we found out this model, the dialectical relationship, is very important to inform our research as well.
Okay. So basically the findings, we looked at opportunities to enhance learning and teaching by social media with students in the process of unit development and delivery and assessment. What we found from the survey was that all participants were willing to use social media to add to their own and others' learning experiences by posting articles and videos and everything on about their learning experiences and about what they wanted in the future. They said that they would do that. And although they were encouraged, nobody actually posted anything on Moodle and nobody posted anything on Facebook. So Leanne started a Facebook page and really encouraged the students to post something. And I think we had 4 participants who ended up stating something. But really that was lecturer directed, or Leanne directed that. Basically the students opted for face-to-face and discussions and communications. They really tried to avoid social media of any form, Moodle, Facebook. So that was quite interesting, which created some tensions because obviously you build a relationship with students when they come to you in person, but because we wanted to use social media, there was this tension between what we wanted to use social media as a learning tool versus what the students wanted, which was the face-to-face and the discussion and the communication. And I mean, even though we suggested, you know, we can have great discussions on social media, why don't you look at the post that I've put as a provocation? It was still, oh no, I'd prefer to talk to you in person in the tutorial. So that was one finding.
Yeah, and also during the interview session, and then they do mention that they prefer to talk to the lecturer in person instead of on the Facebook, and also on the social media, especially we use Moodle at Monash, because sometimes they feel that it's really personalized, some information they think, but actually it's really generalized for the lecturers. That is something, the difference between lecturers and students thinking as well. Now come to the discussion point.
Yeah, so basically, an informal student-created Facebook page might be adaptable to each student's needs, but it wasn't really built on a solid foundation of pedagogical knowledge, because Leanne created the page and just hoped that students would contribute to it, whereas really we probably should have gone back and provided a lot more intentional teaching on why we thought that it was really good for Facebook or Moodle to be used as a site for learning. And also the default outcome of an informal student-led Facebook group really calls upon the skills of networking rather than specific pedagogical knowledge. So it's skills of networking and sharing everyday theories, basically everyday things that happen. So just returning to Stuckley and Arkle quadrants here. Next one, just to remind you what it was. So we saw the informal or emergent norms to formal top-down rules. But we could have asked a question about the teacher to student. Here, who initiates and acts and enforces the norms or rules? Well, even though we wanted the student to voice an opinion, it was actually quite challenging to step out of our roles and provide what we were trying to advocate for. And that was because of our knowledge. So our top-down knowledge was really missing the bottom-up knowledge from the students. We did gain some, but not as much as we'd hoped due to the small time frame. And also the bottom-up approach, so giving students much more of a voice, missed the top-down knowledge. So the students obviously don't have the knowledge that we do of the constraints put forward in the university, and they had these fantastic ideas, but we really needed to stick with what was in the handbook and what was in the unit guide. So there's certain constraints. So yes, you can listen to student choice and opinions, but really at the end of the day, it's still, to me, very much a top-down model that we enforce. Even though throughout the lectures and the tutorials, we tried to, I did definitely get reflective practice going through a personal communication book. Fortunately, it was only a very small number of students. So each student was provided with a reflective book, and they were given 10 minutes at the end of the lesson and just, ask, what would you like to hear next week? How can we support your learning? And they would write, little very short sentences, and then I would reply to that for the next lecture and include what they are feasible and if it was in the constraints. But it also echoes the Everyday and Scientific Learning by Vygotsky.
Yeah, and also, we try to think about how we build a flexible model of interaction with students and lecturers, as we mentioned about the relational agency. How could we open a new system for fluid, formal, for this RA we call relational agency to emerge through the dialogue? Exactly like Megan has explained. Before the unit starts, during the unit, every week, get student voices through the reflective journal. And then through the whole process, actually, we aim to develop this co-constructed pedagogy and through this learning and teaching relations. And so we hope we need to think about further about the flexible mode of interaction between student and teacher. It's instead of just emailing, those kind of things. And also for the future direction. Yeah, so we've expanding the project to incorporate another campus, so it'll be on Berwick and Peninsula. Yeah. And we're also looking for a cross-faculty partner, and we've been talking to social work, so that's a possibility. And yeah, we'll change the presentation of the unit to encompass learning and teaching of larger groups to see how that works. And then this is acknowledgement. We got a small grant from MEA here. It's really fantastic. Allowed us to continue our project, and also, we get a fully ethical approval, and thanks participants as well. Thank you so much for today.
So do we have some questions? Rowan?
Yep. Hi. I was wondering if thoughts on how you're going to essentially address the issues from the wrong word, but the lack of the small number of interactions or responses you've had on your Facebook page, and if you thought about using Facebook Live perhaps, or a series of events, which would then, you know, I guess give a sense of purpose or reason for then participating in your forum.
Yes.
Yes, we do think about that, how it would be. Even this morning we had a discussion about this, prepare for the next round as well for the social media part. And then as already mentioned, that is perhaps last year we did that is kind of lecture directed. The questions I posed and also the ways interaction and through the social media is really is from my perspective. I don't know them really well. I'm not teaching them. I don't know in personal at all. And then so I think this year we are thinking that is if the students can post the questions instead of we post the question first and ask students, you know, think about linking to their content, unit content, and post one question each week, and we solidate, you know, together to answer the questions. And this is kind of more interactive way what they really want to achieve. I think we have to work out how it works.
But I think your statement about using Facebook Live is actually a really good idea. We did discuss that with the students, but due to work commitments, time, etc., it was really difficult to find a time outside of the unit when it did suit everybody. So,
Really good question. 13 students.
Lovely group.
Surprised that they really value face-to-face over online. They use Facebook for social stuff.
Yeah.
Learning. We have a learning management system called Moodle that we use that stuff as well. So it's a really interesting study. But fourth year students doing education, I would have thought they really value getting together in the same room, sharing the experience in a kind of, you know, truly authentic way.
Yeah. Well, this was just a pilot study, so we sort of expected something similar as well, but we just wanted to try it out to see if we could actually, you know, get anybody on board to see that it was of interest to them. So, yeah.
Did you think at all about giving a grade for using Facebook? Usually a good way of getting.
That's where we came in the constraints, because the 50% in the unit guide, in the handbook, it was 50% oral presentation and 50% written essay. So we you can't change that, unfortunately. So yeah, we did think about it, but it's, yeah. Yeah.
And also we were thinking that it's because Facebook is their choices. We mentioned about Moodle, and they said they like Facebook. And I talked to Megan, maybe Facebook for them is really social everyday practices. If we change to another social media, maybe add Moodle, we are thinking that add Moodle is really formal and informal together, and you can access to this through your mobile phone easily, a smartphone. And instead of Moodle, you have to log in each time about your password, everything. We know that. Yeah. So we're thinking through quite a few ways to do that as well.
I'm just looking at the title of your talk, and the last word is actually assessment. But during your talk, you haven't mentioned the sort of assessment even once. So
yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So when in the initial forum, the students actually requested that they not do a presentation because they'd done one every semester since the beginning of semester one, their first year. So to get around that, and because it was in the handbook, we actually suggested that they do a podcast. And so they did an innovative podcast where it was sort of like a news report, and they had to include theory, interview one person in relation to their topic of conversation, and they also used, as a provocation, they used a newspaper article. So, and it was on disabilities or people or inclusive practices. So that was actually done together with the students. So they agreed on that they would like to do a podcast as opposed to a presentation, and that was actually quite successful.
Thank you.
Megan, I have a feeling that we're going to have a networking breakfast on this. So the Academy comes to the fore again. Thank you very much. So some conversations offline or in the morning at a breakfast. Sounds good. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Kirsten Ellis from the Faculty of IT, Innovative Teaching Technology to Provide Experiential Learning.
You have to switch off the microphone.
Getting a message via Zoom now. Okay, lovely. All right. Some presents. This is always good.
There's no chairs on this side.
Sorry?
There's no chairs on the side.
I didn't bring that many. Okay, fantastic. All right, so over to you. Thank you.
So does the radio mic yet work? Yes. Excellent. Okay. So I want to start this. Okay. I want to start this by saying it's not about the technology. Yes, I work in the Faculty of IT. I can't see if I actually have those lights on, so excuse me if I'm a little in the dark, but because of glasses I can't actually see over the top. Okay, so I was looking at innovative teaching technology to provide experiential learning. So it was really about the type of learning that students were doing rather than the technology. The technology just happened to be available that served a really good purpose to me. So for the group that's here, they're actually handing out a makey-makey. As I get through the presentation, it's just really nice to be able to hold it in your hand. You won't actually be able to use it within this session, but if you're interested, you can email me later and I can loan you one or whatever, okay? So today I'm just going to quickly go through the aim of the project, the method that was used, the results that sort of occurred, discussion of the project, considerations for what I'd like to do in the future, and then give a bit of a conclusion. I received a Monash small grant for this project to purchase the technology that we were using. The project was with Associate Professor Henry Linger and Professor Julie Fisher, both also in the Faculty of IT. They were taking HCI for a series of reasons. We ran it in a slightly different subject, but the aims were still the same. Okay, so the aim was to develop an interactive and engaging method for teaching user interface design. So our target subject was user interface design. What we wanted to do was give students hands-on experience. Okay. Within that, there were a few limitations. So although these students are doing human-computer interaction, it's not a programming subject. So they don't have time to actually sit and program an entire application so that they can then learn about the interface design. It's really trying to get straight to the interface design. So they're not particularly technical students, or they don't have to be particularly technical students. It's not about programming. It was quite time constrained in user interface design, which is why the most efficient thing that we can do is not necessarily get them to write a program from scratch, because it is really time consuming. And they tend to learn different things rather than the interface design when we do that. And I wanted to give them a real experience, and I'll tell you what they used to do by comparison. So what we did was enable them to experience user testing using a rapid prototyping tool, which is what the tool is in front of you. The other thing that I really wanted to emphasise was, I don't know about you, but when you think about technology, do you think computer or iPad maybe these days? There's a whole lot of technology out there that's off the screen. So the students that are coming out now are not necessarily going to be designing interfaces for the computer or for the iPad. At least I hope they're not. Okay, I hope they're not, because I really hope that they start designing microwaves, yeah, and refrigerators and washing machines and all those other sorts of things. But not only that, I have when my children were young, we had language dolls for them. You know, you could hold their hand and they'd say something to you. There's lots of technologies that aren't on the screen. And for user interface design, we need to get students to start to think about beyond that screen experience. What other types of technologies and interaction styles are people going to be using in the future? I'd love to do something with the Connect. You know, that they can do full body interactions and we could design a whole system. But again, given that time limitation and the programming overhead for that, not possible. So this is a limited way of at least starting to get them to think outside the box. And there's lots of cool tools coming online now with regard to that sort of thing. All right, so think teddy bears, drones and music systems. Why, when we're using music systems, do you have to actually go back and touch your system to, you know, get to your next song? And yes, you can speak out loud the type of beat that you want. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've got to think beyond. All right, so previously in HCI, what would happen is the students would be told a theory or a concept. In the case that we did for this project, Donald Norman's putting mapping in the world. So if you have the hot plate on the stove, you can have the 4 of them in a line and you have to guess which knob belongs to which gas stove. Okay, so the theory is that you actually put them in the same order as what you can see and therefore it's in the world and you don't have to remember it. When I was a kid, we used to have 2 banks of light switches at home on the wall, 6 on each. So there were 12 lighting switches. And I could guarantee that every single time I turned on the switch, I turned on the wrong. I had to go through at least 3 lights before I got to the light that I wanted. Okay, so that's the theory. That's the concept that we were talking about. So what the students would do is they would be told that theory, they would have a look at a website and they would do an analysis, make a comment on some different elements, something like that. So with this, what we wanted to do was actually provide a bit more of an authentic or a real experience. So the students were told the same theory concept. Students tested the concepts for themselves by introducing them to the makey-makey, testing the concept with poor design, and then changing the design and testing the concept again. So they could actually experience that in a very, like within a single tutorial. The students experienced the effect and learned authentically. So to preface that, so that it makes more sense, the makey-makey you have in your hand, you're quite welcome to pull out and have a look at, just so you can have a look. So from the pictures, double-sided printing is a problem when you're lecturing. Anyone found that? You can't turn it off through the university system. Well, we can't. I don't know if you've worked it out. I had to print something single-sided the other day, so what I did was I had a PDF document and I slotted things, a blank page every second page in order to be able to print it single-sided. Working with technology, not against it. Okay, so what we have here, and what you have in your hand is a makey-makey. It's basically a printed circuit board, which is why a lot of these technologies are actually coming down in price. It's a printed circuit board. It has a series of controllers, so it has up, down, left and right, and then it has the space bar and an enter key on one side. On the other side, it actually has lots and lots of different things that you can connect to. Okay, we just used the basic controller side. Play-Doh. Now, I actually brought Play-Doh with me today, because sometimes when you say Play-Doh, people don't know what it is. No, seriously, international students, when you say, you know, you use Play-Doh, they're like, don't have that concept. I don't know whether it's just that they call it something, modelling clay. So Play-Doh is this squishy stuff, which happens to be a little bit wet, not super wet, but it's conductive. So with the makey-makey, what you do is you can make the buttons in Play-Doh in whatever size or shape you are inclined, and I have lots of different colours. Okay, and then you can actually, you connect the makey-makey controllers up, like in the picture there with the wires, bulldog clips, and you can actually then use it as a controller. Okay, so there's different ways then that you can use that, but that's the basic concept. So down here, what you do is you connect a bulldog clip to the Play-Doh and back to the makey-makey device. And then it's just connected via USB to a computer. It doesn't require any software. You just plug it straight in, which is cool because there's no downloading and installing. And okay, so what did the students do? The students did engage with the activity, absolutely. They worked in Peru was, you can download Pac-Man, any Pac-Man, you can get one that just sits straight on the screen. And they put 4 buttons in a row, and then they tried to play Pac-Man. And it's incredibly hard because they're all in a straight line. There's a few people giggling at that, yeah. Okay, so, and then what we did was we got them to move the buttons and play Pac-Man, and it's a lot easier because the direction that you want to go corresponds with where the button is. They could change the size of the buttons, make them larger and smaller. There's something called a fits task, which we didn't get to do, but fits task would work really well with this technology as well. There's this concept that the bigger the buttons, the closer together, the faster it's going to be. So you can go between 2, if you have small buttons that are a long way apart, it's going to take a long time to get between them. If you have big buttons and they're close together, then you can get, okay. So that would be another type of activity that would work really well with this particular technology. But the thing was, it was hands-on. They got to try it, they got to experience it. They actually went beyond where I asked them to go. So I was trying to get them to do the Pac-Man type of activity. Some of the students down the bottom here, you'll see, actually had a go. They actually set up a piano, again, downloaded one that you can just play, and then tried it with the buttons in order and tried with, you'll see different colours, and some of them actually set it up so that the colours were like black and white notes, etc. So they went beyond where I actually asked them to go. I don't get that often. You know, like it's hard to get students to go as far as you need them to, let alone actually go beyond. So I found it very effective. The students then actually, some of the students actually then took the technology and used it for their assignment. Okay, which again, we didn't originally ask them for, but they were really keen to do that. Okay, so the students engaged with the activity beyond what was required. They extended the concept. So the aims were for them to think beyond the screen, which we kind of achieved. We didn't really think about shape with the Play-Doh. There's some interesting things happening in education with tangibles for letters, for example, that people could actually pick up the shape of the letter and make the word cat and make the word. So it's a start, it's not the whole way. So there's other things that can be done with this, but it's starting to get beyond the screen. This was still pretty flat, but again, beyond the screen. So make the learning more real. Is this going to be memorable? Well, I would suggest that if I'd asked them to sit and do an analysis of a website, it would have been another tutorial. Doing this, I think, would be much more memorable for them. Having said that, if you do that too often, then you lose it. Do you know, like there's only so many cool activities that you can do before they all kind of blur together. So I guess it's a matter of being strategic when we actually do cool things, when we use real, so that it doesn't just become another gimmick. It made the learning much more hands-on. Using the technology to enable activities that were not previously possible. So previously, I was talking about that limitation with programming. Previously, we couldn't have got them to make a Pac-Man game and put it on the screen and design it for themselves within like a single tutorial. Just would have taken too long. So the technology allowed something that wasn't possible previously, but it's not necessarily about this particular technology. That's just a really convenient example of it at the moment. So there are a couple of other considerations for me. One was to make it repeatable. You'll notice I actually have it in a rolly case because in subjects in the Faculty of IT, we often have, in HCI, there'd be around 100 students. So having a couple of rolly cases where you can pick it up and walk out the door and know that everything that you require for this tutorial is within that case was really important, because not only are there a number of tutorials, obviously there's a number of tutors who have to be able to run it as well. Things like I actually had a small brush to clean it up. It wasn't as messy as I thought it would be, because that was one of my concerns, that would end up with Play-Doh all over the floor. I have a habit of doing that in some of the things that I do, you know, green fluff or whatever everywhere. So thinking about everything that you actually need to be able to run that tutorial, having it all in one place. So semester 2, we're going to try it in a bigger unit and actually formalise it and try to get something published out of it. But it's hard. Some of these things are really hard to publish in terms of how do you prove that it's more effective, or like my gut instinct is yes, absolutely, but turning it into something that is publishable is not where I excel. Do you know what I mean? As in, I know in my gut this works, but turning it into something that can be published and having a convincing larger trial is where I'd like to go for second semester. So the other considerations were the being able to repeat it, so that how do you train your staff to use it? Well, this technology is, I would suggest that any of you could take this, any of you could do it within 10 minutes. The IT staff could, I say USB, they just, do you know what I mean? They just get it. So very, very low overhead on learning it, very, very low overhead for students to learn it. But training staff and distributing to large classes. And then we have the campuses overseas that we need to cater for as well. So there are those sorts of considerations in terms of making it larger. So it's all about the experience. And one of the things that I do is actually all of the students in groups of 15 have to run through a string about teamwork. They have to organise themselves within that group to all run through the string. That is incredibly low technology. It's a 3-metre piece of string tied in a circle, and they all have to get through it. And the groups who do it once, there's about 17 or 18 seconds the first time they do it. If they work as a group, they can get it, with 15 people, they can get it down to about 7 seconds. Low tech, really experienced, and it then means they can debrief. So who stood to the side and didn't do anything? You know, did spontaneous leaders erupt, etc. So there's a whole lot of ways that we can actually provide more meaningful experiences and make it hands-on. It's not about the it's not about this technology. It's about what technologies are out there that make it easy for you guys, for everyone. The Makey could be really good for reaction time in psychology, hands-on learning, and technology to enable learning. So it's not about the technology, it's about the learning. Thank you.
It also sounds quite a rewarding experience, and I hope you've got an ethics.
Yes, I got ethics. I have 10 or 12 ethics approvals at the moment.
And I can see there'll be some collaboration, I think, with a number of people about that. That's really good. The other thing the Academy has, here am I doing my hard sell, the Academy has a creativity and imagination in the classroom program, which we'll contact you because it sounds very exciting.
Okay, cool.
Because that's what we want. We want our students to be creative and imaginative and solve that.
Could you collect? I want the technology back, sorry. Over there. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so a question?
I've got a question. Makey has 12 contacts, you know, to connect. The modern computer has billions of contacts to connect. You know, technology to do this and that must be done how different. Or you know, other example, if you put a key track over small screen, it's completely different than build, you know, the web-game bridge. So the question is, how are you planning to bridge this gap?
But the computer having all of these potential connections doesn't mean that people can cope with them. So there's only a limited, like 12 is actually quite a number of things. If you think in terms of a interface of some sort, if you have 12 things, by the time you look through all of them, work out which one you want. That's actually quite a lot. Was that the question? Does that answer the question? That again, it's not about the technology. It's about how we interact and how we experience it. Yes.
I pick up your point about people getting sick of doing the same thing. In most places, simulation, we talk about simulation motors. So scaffolding is good where you can have that frequent flyer approach, which you increase the zone of proximity learning so that it never becomes boring to them. They're always on the edge.
Yep.
So you can do that, but it's nature training.
Yep.
We'll have a conversation.
Yeah. Okay, great.
That's good.
Yep.
We do something similar at
Spaghetti towers?
No. We actually do line science thing, and we actually take in stuff like a preschool, because I have lots of experience in preschool. So we take in base and base of everything, and students have to work with each other, and they have to become, they design a purse or a wallet for each other.
Yep.
And they actually speak to a person and they say what they say, and they go away and they talk to them, they go away and design something, put all this paper clips and things, and they bring it back and show them, and the other person tries it, says, no, I don't like that, what about this? And they talk more again, they go away and maybe they design something else. And at the end, they have brilliant things, absolutely brilliant things.
Yep. And your technology there is cut paper and,
Exactly right,
yep.
same thing.
Like Ellis.
And it's great. I think that the idea behind it is really excellent, because I've been doing some research and some work with some teachers in school, and they asked me what app can they talk about. That was their link to technology. So there's a real gap between the technology that's there, the way teachers use it, and where they can go to. So I think that your application would be really great for us. There you go.
Okay.
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Everything. Okay.
So now I'd like to
Sorry.
introduce
Cut.
our final speaker for today. And this is Rowan from the Office of Monash University Office of Learning and Teaching, Summer and Winter. The story of 2 seasons of learning centres experiences at Monash. Thanks, Rowan.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks, everyone. Hi, I'm Rowan. I'm from Monash University Office of Learning and Teaching. I'm going to talk about student-led projects. Great. So the student-led projects are initiated by Monash University Office of Learning and Teaching. That's us, and they're sponsored by Monash staff. So it's anyone within our office. They're offered as a scholarship with a research focus. So they're administered by the university's scholarships office. So that's why there's summer and winter projects, and they happen between the semesters there. So, and they're aligned with our better teaching, better learning agenda. So that's to improve the offering and also communicate the offering as well. And the idea is that we place the students at the centre, they work as a team, and they get feedback from this project sponsor. So I'm going to talk about Winter 2016, which happened about this time last year. So the first project is our learning spaces, and that's that was sponsored by Leanne Rose Munro, and the idea was to create a better learning, create a better campus. And so that was through, I guess, looking at the Menzies building, and that was one of the location space, and sort of transition from one context to another. So, and the output of that, because it's research focused, there's no development or implementation. It's always documentation or a report or something of that nature, which then can then inform any of the changes or any of the work that we do here at the office, or if someone's going to develop it further. So in the context of Leanne Rose Munro's project, the design brief went to the office, to facilities. So there's an example. So that's in E364. So you can probably visit that space. There it is around here. So it was going to be built, but I'm not sure how where it is in their schedule now. But you can still visit that space. So there's the students. That's Steph. So let's have a listen to Steph talk about her experience. Oh, one moment, please. Just navigating the desktop. Yeah. Just watch the volume, one moment please.
Our project was about designing an informal study space for Clayton campus.
Oops, sorry.
Our project will improve the student experience by providing a breakout learning space for them to relax and rejuvenate outside of formal class time.
The project was actually based on the Monash focus principles that future plans should be very innovative, inclusive, diverse.
The first thing that we did was survey a whole bunch of Monash University students and kind of get an insight of what they think.
So that's hearing about some of the students and the work that they've done. So we move quickly through to Leanne, and let's have a listen to what Leanne said about the impact of the project and the work that was done.
This project is really important because Monash University is taking a very big focus and looking at the student experience on campus and what that actually means. So listening to the voice of students is the first step towards really understanding how we can deliver a really great on-campus experience where everybody feels included, we have diverse opportunities that are capitalised upon, and we also have exemplar experiences.
Great, thank you, Leanne. So we had a total of 6 projects. So the next one was student experience, showcasing excellence in teaching. And that was sponsored by Jerry. Jerry Rayner. And I guess the idea of that project, the goal of it, is to better understand how students and educators define excellence in teaching, and how does excellence in teaching provide improve student learning in higher education. So not only was it to, I guess, find out answers to those kind of prompts, but also then showcase that. So let's listen to the students talk about their experience.
So a lot of what we did involved going around to lecturers who've been rated really highly by students and understanding what really motivated them and the kind of qualities and attributes that they had.
So I think the first thing that we needed to accomplish was to be able to complete the student survey. The student survey essentially addressed the student opinions on teaching excellence, what they thought teaching excellence was, and their overall opinion of it. And from there, we sent out that survey to the students. That was certainly the first goal that we had to accomplish. From that,
thank you, students. So we'll just skip through that. But generally, it was research focused. So they did a lot of talking to academics and other students and gathering data. That certainly made up a lot of their work that they, of the time they spent over the 4 weeks of the project. We'll just skip through Jerry. So the next one, we're just looking at the clock. But Jerry says a lot of amazing things, and it's great. So the next one here is online course development, so evaluate an academic orientation program. So if you know Robert Nelson, he's the figurehead for the orientation program. So in that, he wanted to find out if achieving success at Monash, and wanted to know, how could it be improved and what changes need to be made. So let's quickly hear from the students about the work that they did. We just had a presentation about UI, so look at me. Sorry if it's painful watching me sort of navigate the. Yep.
My project, as a part of the Winter Research Scholarship Program this holiday, was to evaluate an online academic program, which specifically referred to the Achieving Success at Monash program. The primary objective of our project, and therefore the task at hand for us as a group, was to evaluate previous student engagement and feedback with the previous programs, and to provide recommendations with regards to how the program could be further enhanced in 2017. So to accomplish this task, we had to produce a finalised report with our recommendations and identify the particular areas of which the program had barriers to completion and to participation, and to offer recommendations in that area.
Which is exactly what they did. So the good thing about one of the great successes of the winter project was when summer project came around late last year, is that they used this report to then inform the work that they did. So that meant they provided that report, and then the team who head up SEED had then changed the way the content is presented in the Achieving Success at Monash. They've changed the name, which they found out was even something like a name would impact the way the people students engage with it, or the users would engage with it. Also, they changed the navigation and the way the content was presented. So that's a great thing about the work that they've done and how they impacted that. So another project was Matthew Hillier and his e-exam research and some analysis of survey data. So Matthew works in the area of e-exam technologies, and particularly around assessment, bring your own devices and all that kind of stuff. It's a sort of larger project. So that's kind of interesting. So we'll just get through the students, but they just talk about, once again, there's a reflective piece where they talk about the work they've done and how they hope their work to be used. And that brings us on to summer. So in summer, we picked up learning spaces. So the idea was we'd have 2 seasons, as they were, a winter and a summer. So the output from one would then inform the input of the next. So where possible, we had the 2 seasons of this with that similar theme. So this, once again, the students looked at mapping a space again, and using the output from the previous, they made some other further recommendations. So we'll just listen to Justin, because he has some really interesting things to say.
The research field that we're looking at in informal learning spaces in general, learning communities, there's a whole body of research that we're unaware of. but over time, I think it was just really fascinating to find out all the really important findings and research that goes behind making these spaces. There's so many like intricacies of the research behind this that was really interesting, and I think yeah, just basically all of it and then putting it together was the most interesting aspect.
Thank you, Justin. So just skip back. And once again, we pick up Jerry's project once again, and they use the output of their winter as the input of their summer. So once again, they engaged further, sort of done further deep dive into their the output, and they found out more about best practice teaching, and then once again, how that could be incorporated into teaching at Monash here. Another project was enhancing sessional staff teaching. That was also led by Jerry.
Yeah, well, there are a few interesting responses. We did have enough participants. We had 60 in total, so I could actually compare disciplines to see if there was any major difference between them. So I broke up the participants into science participants and information technology, and something like that. But there wasn't really much difference, even though the science participants tended to be a bit more qualified and have more face-to-face hours. There wasn't actually too much difference in their interest in professional development or any barriers to professional development, which was interesting considering there's probably different cultures and work atmospheres between those two.
Thank you, Sally. So Sally was talking about us, and the next team is Matthew Healy again. He picked up the e-exam research, and this time it was just based on translation, so translating the academic papers as well as user UI elements of Moodle. So that would be obviously from English to Spanish and English to improving first contact with the university. So this is where we picked up Robert Nelson's project again. So that was the Monash 101. So at this point it had the name change, and which was formerly known as Achieving Success at Monash. So at this point they went to do further study and how else can we, now that we've made those changes from the winter, how else can we further refine it? And also now we're looking at how can graduates stand out in the job market. So this is led by Damien Thompson. So Damien Thompson is preoccupied with work integrated learning. So Damien had this project and wanted to find out, you know, what is everyone saying, or how is work integrated learning defined? He also looked at graduate attributes as well. So how can we make that interesting for students? And, you know, what does it mean? Some very interesting findings. And that brings us to winter, which is right now. So we've got 7 projects going. So once again, we're looking at e-exams. We're looking at investigating the impact of SEED on educators. We're looking at mapping, building SEED professional development pathways for staff. So picking up again, once again, the work that was done previously. We're having a look at from journalism, we're looking at Monash media production. So we're looking at the existing resources and looking at them and saying, well, how can they be used again or reviewed or improved? We're looking at access abroad, so that's with Catherine Bernheim. So like, well, students come from low socioeconomic status backgrounds. If we can, why aren't they engaging in international mobility experiences during their studies? We're going to find out why. We're looking at open note assessment, so that's from pharmacy, also known as cheat sheets maybe. And also we want to know students' perceptions of physical representations of Indigenous culture on Monash campuses. So that's starting to look around to all the different campuses and see how that's represented there. So that's the URL if you want to check out sort of what's going on. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry to keep you.
Thanks, Rowan. Enough now, just on 1 o'clock. So if you want to stay behind and have a chat to Rowan, if any questions, and share the Rowan who's in the office. Thank you to everyone. Just as a final goodbye, we really appreciate you attending. And we do have our Learning Teaching Conference coming up on the 31st of May. We've had 99 submissions for abstract, 25 from Malaysia, and before we've really advertised, we've got over 100 participants. So make sure you come along. It's important. No charges, just come along. Okay then, thank you very much.